Quora Answers, what innocent-seeming picture is actually heartbreaking? Jean-Pierre Adams, a French footballer, has been in coma for almost 40 years due to a mistake his doctor made while putting him to sleep for a surgery to repair a torn ligament. He was 34 when he went into coma. He is 71 years old now. He has spent over 35 years unconscious. The time he has spent in coma is now officially more than the time he has spent being aware of himself and of his surrounding. The sad and traumatic part is the said doctor and his colleague only went to jail for a month and was fined about $815 for an error that has cost a man his entire life, cost his family a father and a husband, and cost the world a great athlete. His wife Bernadette, who he married in 1969, still stays by his bed till today, looks after him, feeds him, and with the help of nurses and physiotherapists available, she's able to bathe him and provide 24 hours a day care. No love I know beats this. A story of love, of pain, of tears. Trigger warning: some readers may find this answer and images disturbing. Reader discretion is advised. This is a photograph of Lakshmi Agarwal. Doesn't she look cute? She was born in June 1990 in Delhi, India, into a middle-class family. This photograph was taken at the age of 15, a few days before her entire life turned upside down. I cannot bring myself to write all this out, and hence I take the liberty of copy-pasting a fairly accurate account of what happened to her. Born to a middle-class family in Delhi, 15-year-old Lakshmi dreamed of becoming a singer someday. Naeem Khan, 32, wanted to marry her, but she was not interested. He refused to take no for an answer and stalked her, but she continued to reject his advances. In 2005, Lakshmi was on her way to a bookshop in Khan Market, when she was accosted by Naeem, who attacked her with acid. She lay on the street, writhing in pain, until a taxi driver came forward and rushed her to the nearby Safdarjung hospital. Lakshmi recalled in an interview with Daily Mail, "I felt as if someone had set my whole body on fire. The skin was just coming off, it was like dripping, from my hands, and from my face." She had to undergo multiple surgeries and was in hospital for 3 months. There were no mirrors in the ward I was in. Every morning, the nurse would bring me a bowl of water to help me freshen up, and I would try to catch my reflection in that water. I would only see glimpses of a bandaged face. When I first saw my face afterward, I was devastated. I had no face to speak of, she told a news website. I hate to do this, and it is with a lot of pain that I share a photo showing the devastation caused. All this because she said no to a man's advances. And hers is not the only story. There are so many like her. Just yesterday I saw a movie in which a young educated man is heard saying women should remain in their places or else we'll show them where they should remain. Lakshmi's story is a direct representation of that statement. The man who attacked her could not take no for an answer from a woman, child. And he decided to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. Do you know what's the punishment for an acid attack culprit in India? Section 326A in the Indian Penal Code lays down the punishment for acid attacks. The minimum punishment is 10 years imprisonment. It can extend up to life imprisonment with fine. A separate law to punish offenders in such cases was passed along with amendment of the law on sexual offenses. In most cases, these perpetrators leave prison after 10 years and get on with their lives. And what about the victims? They have to remain like this until they die, shunning mirrors, avoiding people, explaining their story hundreds of times to everyone curious to know, sometimes even getting blamed for bringing it upon themselves because of what they were wearing or something they said or whatever. It's painful. Edit, November 11, 2019. Thought I'll share this picture too. This is Lakshmi today with her daughter, Pihu. I used to not smile in pictures. But one day I decided to post a picture of me, where I do have what I thought was a genuine, bright smile, anyway. The caption, which is not shown in this screenshot, says something like, "Here is a picture of me. I smile, so where is my cookie?" I would say that's pretty innocent. However, later that day, at boarding school inside of my single room, I took a lot of pills and passed out on the bathroom floor. I had tried to commit suicide. I woke up the next morning, I had vomited all over the floor and I passed out again later that day inside of the classroom. They had to call an ambulance. What breaks my heart is, that I just realize now, that I didn't even have something like a genuine smile. Me, the one who, nowadays, always smiles and is the brightest and most optimistic person I know. This is how a real genuine, bright smile looks like. Edit. Wow, thank you guys. I just want you to know, that I read every comment and that they all make me very happy. I'm sorry if I don't always answer and only upvote, but I leave a big thank you here, for everyone commenting. Edit 2. So, since a lot of people have asked me about the circumstances of why I felt so broken back then and just further details, I decided to add the link to a different answer I wrote a while ago. It's easier for me than just writing all of that down again. If you're interested in a short summary of my past, feel free to click on this link. This is the Turpin family. Those are the 13 children of David and Louise Turpin. For years, they lived in Paris, California. They appear to be just a happy group of kids, right? On January 14, 2018, the police were contacted by 17-year-old Jordan Turpin. She was using an old cell phone to place the call. She begged the police to come to the house immediately. When the police arrived, they found chaos and distress. In a dark, fetid room, the police found all 13 children chained to their beds. For years, the Turpins had beaten, starved, and abused their children. 7 of the children were legal adults, but even the eldest, 29-year-old Jennifer, was malnourished to the point where she weighed a scant 82 pounds. Their parents had cruelly withheld food from them, feeding them only once per day. Additionally, the children were only allowed to shower once per year, leading to the foul odor of their room. Their education was meager to the point where most of them did not know what medicine was or who the police even were. Afterward, the police arrested both parents, who were eventually sentenced to prison for life. Family members and friends stated that they had no clue what David and Louise were doing. The Turpins had posted pictures of their family on Facebook that had everyone fooled. They were isolated, and that allowed the abuse to flourish. Civility, honesty, diversity. Perhaps this is not exactly the theme you had in mind regarding innocent-looking pictures being heartbreaking, but for me, this is it. Marilyn Monroe's last photo shoot by Bert Stern in June 1962. It's heartbreak frame by frame. The photos begin showing the woman she was made to be the definition of beauty. Sultry, seductive, glowing, ethereal, and dressed to the nines in Christian Dior, doing a photo shoot for Vogue magazine. Still at the top of her game, she gave the camera the image her audience, studio, managers, photographers, the entire world expected her to deliver. And she gave it flawlessly. What makes it heartbreaking is seeing, as the series of photos progress, what she's actually hiding behind that beautiful smile. You begin to see the image slipping just a little, perhaps showing more Norma Jean than Marilyn. Still beautiful, still stunning, and also adorable. A little more real, a little less icon. Here, caught in a moment of seemingly genuine laughter. Then there's this one, looking drained and even more real, more human, trying to pull off seductive, but there's a distance haunting her eyes. A 1,000-mile stare. Abandoning, frame by frame, the weight of the image she'd spent her whole life holding up for the world. Here the mask seems to have fallen away almost entirely, looking on the verge of tears, fragile and so very life-weary. This image breaks my heart. Just 6 weeks after this photo shoot, Marilyn was gone. She was found the morning after she passed away by her housekeeper. She was lying in her bed, clutching her telephone receiver. No call was made that night. She had no one to call. This is a picture of my wife Silvia when she was a child growing up and living in Romania in the late 70s. To me, I can see the beautiful woman she is to become and the future wife and mother she is now. But at the time the situation was heartbreaking. Silvia's mother died due to suspected complications after giving birth to Silvia. Silvia has no memory of her birth mother. Her stepmother was an abusive nightmare of a woman who physically and emotionally beat her and her siblings. Living in Romania in the 70s and 80s during the height of the Cold War was tough. Long lines for basic foods, never knowing if you had enough to feed the family, central heating which was turned off overnight, travel restrictions and secret police always watching. Silvia's father was imprisoned for 3 years for trying to flee Romania, but he was caught. So the family knew all too well the risks of trying to escape. Silvia was effectively trapped with abusive parents in a repressive country with little hope of escape. Silvia and her father did however escape Romania a few years later, lying at the border by claiming they were going on holiday to Italy, leaving behind her stepmother and siblings, lived as refugees in Italy for 4 months before traveling to Australia as immigrants. They moved many times, lived in a back supply shed behind a restaurant, a caravan, a single room sharing with strangers, trying to support themselves and trying to bring out the rest of the family. By 16 Silvia left home, dropped out of high school, slept on the floor with her siblings who had joined her in Australia, but she went many days hungry, not having enough money to buy food. Silvia spent 10 years struggling with waitress work and bar work and going through as many as 12 jobs a year. There is a happy ending however. Eventually, she put herself through school, postgraduate study, and built a successful career with the Australian federal government. I married Silvia in 2003, had a beautiful daughter of our own and are living happily ever after. Our wedding photo. Edit. Due to many questions directed to Silvia, here is a link to my wife Silvia Hajas's Quora profile, Silvia Hajas. Feel free to ask her questions directly. This is heartbreaking. Look at how happy these people are. Getting ready for a vacation with their family, preparing to fly off into the tropics of Cuba or the tundra of Finland somewhere far from home. Not one person looks sad here, everyone seems to be ready to get away from normal life and take a vacation. So what's heartbreaking about this picture? This is the last picture ever taken of Flight 571. After the snap was taken in 1972, Flight 571 flying from Uruguay crashed into the snowy mountains of Chile as it tried to land at Arturo Merino Benitez International Airport in Santiago. Both of the wings and tail were ripped off on impact. The remainder of the aircraft toboggan style fell down the steep mountains of Chile and came to rest on a glacier where it would be stuck there forever. The direct crash killed the 2 pilots and 3 other people. However, this was only the tip of the iceberg of the hell they would endure. With little warm clothing and freezing temperatures, people froze to death quickly. The 27 out of 42 survivors huddled together within a crude shelter made of debris, snow, and seats glued together. On the 10th day after the crash, food ran out. Desperately, people began eating anything they could get their hands on, including parts of the airplane like the cotton inside the seats and leather. One man ate a single peanut for over 3 days. Photo: 8 survivors sitting in the igloo they made for themselves. One of the men in this photo, third left, was in the photo above leaning against a seat with his friend, third right in photo above. But this wasn't enough. At high altitudes, the human caloric needs are extreme. If the survivors didn't get something proper in their mouths soon, they would perish. However, the only thing edible left was the dead, and however disgusting it seemed, everyone knew that it was the only chance of survival. At first this was hard to come by, eating your family and friends. But as hunger really started to set in, they had no choice. One of the passengers called Kanasa was the first to consume human flesh, using a knife to cut into the pilot's body and remove a strip of frozen meat to eat. Soon, nearly everyone started eating the dead, and a pact was made that, if one of the survivors died, they would be eaten too. When the dead turned to skeletons, they ate hearts, lungs, and even brains. One midnight, an avalanche hit the airplane and 8 people were killed in impact. Things were getting too dangerous just sitting there, and since it seemed no one was looking for them, they decided to get help themselves. 2 months after the crash, 3 volunteers went to get rescue. They had no technical gear, no map or compass, and no climbing experience. Luckily, they found 3 men on horseback who were kind enough to go get help. Soon, the Chilean army provided helicopters, and with the direction of the 3 volunteers, were able to rescue the people stranded on the glacier. Photo: 12 passengers cheering as they see Chilean helicopters fly above them. What made the photo I chose so heartbreaking is that most of the people seen were eaten, killed by the cold, starved to death, killed by avalanches, and almost none of them came back home. Rest in peace all those who perished on Flight 571, we shall not forget you.